Hi, welcome back to my channel, Geophysics for Everyone. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you. Today we are going to talk about measurements of porosity. This video is a part of a series that is intended for a second year courses in geophysics at Institut Teknologi Bandung. The course is Elementary Geophysics. So why you need to know how to measure the physical properties of rocks? Geophysicists should have hands-on experience on how to measure basic physical properties. Geophysicists should also have a sense of magnitudes when it comes to physical properties. In these courses, Elementary Geophysics, the students are required to take several laboratory modules where they could do the measurements. One of them is measuring the porosity. In the measurements of porosity, the students will be provided two types of samples. One is called the short cylindrical samples, and the other one is long cylindrical samples. The diameters of these samples are about 4 to 5 centimeters, and the thickness of the short cylindrical samples is between 1 to 3 centimeters, while the length of long cylindrical sample is about 6 to 10 centimeters. The students will be provided also with caliper to measure the diameters as well as the thickness or length of the core samples, and they will also be provided with access to the precision balance where they could measure the samples. The students would have access to a desiccator connected to a vacuum pump as well as the oven. So a desiccator is the instrument that the student would use to basically soak the samples with water vapor basically. Okay, and the oven is the instrument that the student would use to heat the sample at a certain temperatures to ensure that all the water vapor or any other fluid will be released from the samples. So how to measure the porosity of rocks? In these lab sessions, the students are required to measure density of 3 different rock samples. To do that, first of all, the students are required to measure the volume of each sample by measuring the height and as well as the diameter of these samples. The students are then required to bring the samples to the oven and heat the samples in the oven for about 2 hours and set the temperatures as about 105 centigrade. After 2 hours, the sample will be cooled down. The students are then required to weigh the samples in the precision balance to obtain the dry mass. So remember, dry mass. Then the students are required to place these dry samples into water-filled desiccator. Then the students are required to turn on the vacuum pump for about 2 hours to ensure that the samples are water saturated. Weight the samples in the precision balance, and then the students will get what's called the wet mass of the samples. So the discrepancy between wet mass and the dry mass is assumed to be the mass of water that fill the pore space in the sample. Assuming that the density of water is 1 gram per centimeter cube, the students could then determine the volume of the pore space. Porosity is defined as the volume of the pore space divided by the volume of the sample. There are some cautionary notes when it comes to measuring this porosity. First of all, the students are required to measure the heights and the diameters of the samples multiple times. The same also with measurements of precision balance. And then the students are required to describe and, if possible, identify the rock samples so that they could check the measured value with that in the literature. At this moment, the students are not to be worried about operating the oven, the desiccator or the vacuum pump, because the laboratory assistant would help them with operating these instruments. Now, it comes to the reporting. The students, apart from determining the porosity of these 3 samples, they are required to discuss their findings. For instance, why some samples have much higher or much lower porosity compared to the others. The students could also check the density of the samples. And then the students are required to compare their finding with that in literatures. That's why it's important for the students to identify as best as they could and decided what type of rocks that they are measuring. In the next video, we'll be talking about measurements of electrical resistivity. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.